The Trump administration is proposing new rules for tourists from 42 countries, including Australia, which would see travellers forced to share their DNA and their entire social media history for the past 5 years.
If you are planning to travel in 2026, especially if you are a senior, there is something you need to understand right now. The rules you relied on for decades are quietly disappearing. In their place are automated systems that do not negotiate, do not forgive mistakes, and can block you from boarding a flight within seconds. Approach security confidently, and then approach security confidently. And then the system rejects your identification. No warning, no explanation, no human flexibility. That scenario is no longer rare. It is becoming normal. Starting February 1st, 2026, airport ID enforcement inside the United States changes dramatically. For years, travelers heard about real ID requirements, but experienced soft enforcement. Airports often allowed older licenses to pass after manual checks. TSA officers would review documents and sometimes issue warnings while still letting passengers travel. That era is over. In 2026, enforcement becomes system-driven. If you arrive at security without a real ID-compliant license, a valid U.S. passport, or another federally approved identification, you will not simply receive guidance. You will be required to pay a new identity verification fee, approximately $45, before you are allowed to continue. And here is what most travelers overlook. That payment only covers a 10-day verification window. If your trip lasts longer than 10 days and your verification expires before you return home, the fee must be paid again. Think about a simple 2-week trip. You pay $45 to board. 10 days later, your window expires. When you return, the system requires another payment. Suddenly, a routine round-trip flight costs $90 extra, not because of airfare, but because of documentation compliance. And beyond the cost is the delay. Travelers who trigger this verification process often experience additional screening that can add 20 to 40 minutes at security. During peak travel seasons, those delays can escalate into missed flights. The safest solution is straightforward. Upgrade your driver's license to a real ID-compliant version as soon as possible, or carry your U.S. passport whenever you fly, even for domestic trips. Many seniors assume passports are only necessary for international travel, but in 2026, they become one of the most powerful tools to avoid verification fees and automated delays. Travel beyond U.S. borders is also shifting into a new digital era. International systems are no longer relying primarily on manual border officers. Instead, databases now cross-check passports, authorizations, biometrics, and travel history before you even reach the gate. One of the most important international changes affects travel to the United Kingdom. Beginning February 25th, 2026, the UK Electronic Travel Authorization, known as the ETA, becomes mandatory for most American travelers. In the past, US citizens could book a ticket, present a passport, and board a flight with minimal paperwork. That simplicity is ending. Your passport alone is no longer enough for entry into the UK. You must apply for digital authorization in advance through the official UK government application system. The approval is electronically linked to your passport number. Airline systems automatically check for this authorization before issuing your boarding pass. If the system does not detect approval, the boarding pass cannot be printed. And this rule applies even if the United Kingdom is not your final destination. For example, if you are flying from the United States to Italy, but your flight connects through London, you still must obtain the UK authorization before departure. Many travelers mistakenly assume transit does not require approval. The system does not make that distinction. Another critical mistake is waiting until travel day to complete the application. The ETA must be approved before boarding. It requires an application fee and processing time that is usually fast, but not guaranteed to be instant. Applying early is essential. Responsibility for completing this step does not fall on airlines or travel agents. It falls entirely on the traveler. If it is missing, boarding is denied. Europe is also transforming its border control system. Instead of traditional passport stamps handled by officers, most entry points now use automated biometric kiosks. Upon arrival, travelers are directed to machines that capture facial scans and fingerprints. The system records your exact entry date and your exact exit date digitally. For younger travelers comfortable with technology, this may feel like a small adjustment. For many seniors, however, it can feel unfamiliar and intimidating. The machines require precise positioning, clear fingerprint scans, and careful attention to on-screen instructions. Small errors can trigger manual secondary screening and longer processing times. The most significant change behind the scenes is enforcement of stay limits. In the past, minor overstays were sometimes resolved with discretion from border officers. Under automated tracking, the system flags overstays automatically. Even being one day beyond your permitted period can create complications for future travel approvals. Planning your return date carefully and leaving buffer time is now more important than ever. There has also been confusion online about another European authorization system, sometimes referred to as EDS. Many websites are already promoting urgent applications and requesting payment. However, the system is expected to launch later in 2026 and is not fully active at the beginning of the year. Travelers over 70 may eventually be exempt from application fees, though they will still need to complete the form. If a website asks for payment before official implementation, exercise extreme caution. Scams often emerge during policy transitions. Airlines themselves are introducing major policy changes that directly affect comfort, cost, and accessibility. One of the biggest shifts involves Southwest Airlines. For decades, Southwest operated with an open seating system where passengers checked in early and selected any available seat. That system officially ends on January 27, 2026.
Here at Lambert Airport, the Southwest terminals, well, they look the same as they always have, at least for now. But Southwest passengers will experience the change when they head to the gate for their flight.
It is replaced with assigned seating. Assigned seating may appear more organized, but it introduces new costs. Premium seats near the front or seats with extra legroom now require additional payment.
The end of an era for Southwest Airlines. Today, the company's new seating policy begins. The airline will now offer passengers the option to select their seats, transitioning from their long tradition of open seating.
For seniors who prefer sitting closer to the door to reduce walking distance, those comfort positions may no longer be free. What once depended on early check-in speed now depends on budget allocation. Another important change concerns extra seats purchased for medical comfort or mobility reasons. Previously, passengers who bought an additional seat under certain conditions could receive refunds. Starting in 2026, refunds are no longer guaranteed if the flight is full and both seats are occupied. That transfers financial risk to the traveler and makes advanced planning critical. Safety regulations regarding mobility devices are also tightening. Beginning January 11, 2026, new fire safety rules restrict lithium-ion batteries above 300 watt-hours on certain flights. Many heavy-duty mobility scooters and powered devices exceed this limit. Imagine arriving at the airport only to discover your essential equipment cannot be transported because the battery specification violates policy. Avoid this situation by checking your device's watt-hour rating well before travel. Contact the manufacturer or airline if necessary. These rules are strictly enforced and leave little room for exception. While enforcement becomes stricter in many areas, passenger protection laws are also strengthening. New federal regulations require airlines to issue automatic cash refunds in specific situations. If a domestic flight is delayed 3 hours or more and you choose not to travel, the airline must refund your payment to the original method. For international flights, the delay threshold is 6 hours. Airlines are no longer allowed to pressure passengers into accepting travel vouchers instead of refunds unless the traveler voluntarily agrees. This change gives seniors and fixed-income travelers stronger financial protection when disruptions occur. Additionally, if an airline changes aircraft and the replacement plane removes accessibility features, such as an accessible restroom or required seating accommodations, that change can qualify you for a refund even if the flight departs on time. Passport renewal is also becoming more convenient. the U.S. State Department is expanding online passport renewal in 2026. Eligible travelers can submit digital photos and complete payment online without visiting a post office or mailing documents. However, this option applies only to standard renewals. First-time applicants or passports expired for extended periods still require in-person processing. Regardless of renewal method, remember one crucial rule. Many countries require your passport to remain valid for at least 6 months beyond your travel dates. Even if your passport technically has not expired, insufficient validity can lead to denied entry at immigration. When you step back and look at all these changes together, a pattern becomes clear. Travel in 2026 is built on automation, digital verification, and strict rule enforcement. Systems now make decisions faster and with less human flexibility. But at the same time, passenger rights are stronger than ever when delays or disruptions occur. The key difference between stress and smooth travel this year is preparation. Before every trip, confirm whether your ID is real ID compliant or carry your passport. Apply early for required international authorizations like the UKETA. Review airline seating policies before booking. Check battery limits for mobility devices. Keep printed copies of documents, even if everything exists digitally. Arrive at the airport earlier than usual. Travel is not becoming impossible. It is becoming structured. And travelers who understand the structure will move through the system confidently, while those who ignore the changes risk unexpected fees, delays, or denied boarding. Preparation today ensures freedom to travel tomorrow.